hi, welcome to our program. Sorry for keeping you wait for a
you.
while. You know, we have very hot issues on the market, and on one hand, we're ahead of a very critical Fed meeting. On the other hand, we have that Syria issue. Okay, we had some, you know, important improvements on that side, but we still have that issue. If we look at the Turkish market, we have some other very, for example, tenses on politics and so on. So with this atmosphere, I want you to start with evaluating the Turkish market, because can we say that, I know you're very much specialized on private equities. In terms of the private equity view, how do they see the market? How do you see the market? Do you still see the potentials, for example?
I think a lot of private equity and fund managers do. You have to look at Turkey in a lot of ways. One is its underlying demographics still arguably are fundamentally very strong. It's still a relatively high growth economy compared to a lot of other economies. And if you're an international emerging market fund manager, Turkey's still going to have an allocation in your portfolio one way or another. What's happening with the Fed right now will probably increase the cost of corporate finance in a lot of ways in Turkey and elsewhere. And with the way the currency is moving, in fact, some valuations in Turkey may come down a little bit. Now that's a perfect atmosphere for private equity come to Turkey. This is where corporates want private equity investment as an alternative source of capital. And if you're a private equity investor, valuations were a little too frothy a few years ago. I mean, that was a big complaint about Turkey and private equity. So in some ways, this set of circumstances that you're describing, I think, may actually help private equity in Turkey. And you got to also bear in mind one last thing, which is private equity is a long-term play. So they're not looking at today, they're looking at 5 years from today. So if they want to plant seeds here, they're looking at what will Turkey be when they harvest those seeds 5 years from now.
So you're saying that private equities invest on long-term stories, and we still, as Turkey, have a story which creates the potential.
Sure.
But on the other hand, let's have a look at the numbers, because as far as I know, every year, almost like 30-40 billion dollars coming to Turkish market as private equities. So everybody, before this period, maybe everybody was looking companies to buy or to have a kind of cooperation in Turkey. How is the situation now? What are the latest numbers? And if we look at the future, could you make some projections on numbers?
Well, if you look at Turkey in comparison to Western European countries or the States, it's still a hugely unpenetrated private equity market. I mean, so statistically, there's a lot of room for private equity still in this market. And as I say, I think some of the trends will start to actually welcome private equity a bit more than maybe it even was historically. A lot of corporates didn't need private equity to date. Cheap borrowing, strong balance sheets. That may change, I think, going forward. So I still think that the fundamentals for this market are quite strong, and I think there's still very keen private equity interest in this market.
So where do we see that interest in terms of industries, let's say? Which industries are more on front?
Oh gosh, I mean, we're seeing it across the whole spectrum. But if you look at some of the areas where there's a demand, infrastructure still, a very serious build-out program still that needs to be done, and private equity is very interested in investing in infrastructure. Life sciences, high growth market still for a lot of reasons. Tech and VC, surprisingly, you know, Turkey's really got a lot to offer the international tech world, and so we're seeing a lot of activity there. And fast-moving consumer goods, obviously, still a very high growth emerging middle class here, and so fast-moving consumer goods.
So you see the potential. Is it easy to make business in Turkey in these industries? I mean, is it only, okay, I'm coming to your country and putting this money to this investment, and what else? What happens then? Is it easy to get your money back, and is it easy to improve your business in Turkey?
Well, that depends on so many things, obviously. You need to choose your local partners very well. So that's, if you're an outsider coming to market, you need to have a partner that you can trust, that has the same business principles that you do and will grow the business with you in like-minded ways. Yeah, basically I think that
let's say, what do they look, I mean, the private equities to invest to a company? What are the top 3 musts that that company has to have?
Okay, well, strong growth prospects, incredibly good management at international standards, or the ability to at least raise its game to international standards. And trust. I mean, trust is fundamentally the biggest thing in private equity. It's a very long-term marriage. When you partner private equity money with a corporate, they're together for 5 years. That's the usual lifespan. So trust is fundamental and key, I think, to all successful investments.
Well, you're also specialized on the privatizations and on the public
General
sector.
money.
But yeah, what is the latest situation there? I mean, it affects very much on the growth of Turkey until now, and we don't know what will happen in the future. But what are your expectations on that side? Do you still see the interest there, and how do you think the future will be?
We have a number of clients that are very keenly focused on some of the big privatization plays that still are left in the system, and there are still a sizable number. So yes, to answer your question, I think that it's going to be a big part of this economy's transformation still that's underway, and I think private equity will be there to support it. And then, you have to also look at Turkey's role in the region for a brief second when you talk about privatizations, because a lot of Turkish corporates are perfect partners for private equity to go outside of Turkey to other neighboring countries and partake in privatizations as well. So we're seeing a lot of privatizations in the region with U.S. or Western European private equity money teamed up with Turkish corporates that have done business in these countries for a number of years and are perfect partners to not only do privatizations or M&A activity in Turkey, but in the region.
Well, in the region, it's obvious that some dynamics are changing. Are there any dynamics that are changing as well for the private equities in the region?
Well,
how do they look?
Well, I think a lot of people are in kind of a temporary wait-and-see mode to see what's going to happen next, which is understandable. But as I said, it's a long-term play, private equity. So a lot of people are looking to the region as there was a correction in valuations. If you look at Southeast Europe, Central and Eastern Europe, Turkey, North Africa, a bit of the Middle East, valuations corrected themselves. They were very, very hot in pre-recession, as you know. So there's a lot of dry powder, and a lot of people are now coming in and trying to capitalize on these depressed valuations with a view to where things will be 5, 6, 7 years from now.
Well, so as an American company or as a consultant, you still see the potential in our country, and because of that, maybe you're going to have an office in Istanbul. Well, what are you planning to do here? Well,
thank you. We're actually launching our office this week. This has been an important market to us for close to a decade now. But we view Istanbul as a growing financial center, a growing prominence in the region, and from this office and this center we will cover the entire CEMENA region, Central and Eastern Europe, the Middle East and North Africa. I think Istanbul's prominence as a financial center for that region is undeniable.
Okay, well, on the other hand, today there was a very important forum, let's say, it's on the private equities. It's called the Private Equity International Turkey Forum, and you were one of the sponsors of this forum. What are you talking in there? I mean, what are the basic main trends on private equity and M&A business nowadays? Well,
people are talking very much about what the Fed is doing, of course, and the impact that it has on the currency. And people who are invested now, so there are two waves, of course. There are the people that are invested now that are concerned about exiting and what the depreciation of the currency will mean for them. But for those that are forward-looking, I think they're still quite bullish on Turkey, and for the reasons I mentioned. They think that there'll be more opportunities now for people to actually welcome private equity investment. Valuations are slightly depressed, and the growth fundamentals are still here in this economy. I personally will be speaking about exits. We're going to be talking about exits and exits in the region, which will be another topic we'll get to.
Yeah, let's say a couple of words on the exits, because it is the other part of the medal. So what do you think about them? Will we see a further exit?
I think we're going to see, if I have to make a prediction, I think we're going to see a rash of exits over the next 2 years. And the reason I say that is a lot of funds that are vintage 2005, in fact, my research indicates 2/3 of those funds still have not returned their capital to their investors. If you look at 2006 through 2008 vintage funds, 90% have still not returned capital. So they got sideswiped by the recession a bit, obviously, and now there's huge pressure from their investors to sell those assets and return capital. So I think these next 2 years you're going to see a dearth of, or rather a boost of exits in our next 24 months.
So we'll see that exits, but on the other hand, we'll welcome some new comers to the
Right,
market.
right. Now the people exiting may have a bit of a challenge on their hands. We'll have
Yeah.
to see, but they still have to do it. Yeah.
Are you helping people on this exit period as
Yes,
well?
yes, we are.
What are the critic issues there? That's a very interesting subject.
Well, currency is a big one right now. If you have a Turkish business and you're obviously collecting your revenue in lira, and let's pretend you have your acquisition finance pegged to euros, you're in a bit of a conundrum right now. So obviously that's impacting exit prospects. But many people still sell a growth story. So going to the market with a growth story is important. A lot of people cannot offer that when they sell their companies right now. So I think the exit environment is going to be challenging, but still a necessary evil.
Okay, thank you so much for joining our program, and good luck in Turkey, in Istanbul.
Thank you very much.